The Amazing World of Gumball has 6 seasons and a total of 240 episodes, some being extremely good, some being kind of mid, and some just being absolutely horrible. And so with that said, in this video, we'll be discussing a few episodes from the series that are deemed to be the worst and uncovering what truly makes them so bad. Starting off with Season 1 Episode 6, The Dress. The episode begins with Gumball and Darwin trying to go down the stairs faster using ice, and then saying that they're ready for school despite being naked, as Gumball says that he can't find his clothes. But then we see that Richard did the laundry despite Nicole telling him not to, and of course shrunk his clothes. Richard then gives Gumball Nicole's old dress, and Gumball says he would rather go to school naked, but Richard begs him to wear it as his mother would think he's a terrible father. And so Gumball puts on the dress, and tries to not be recognized by anyone, but quickly gets discovered, except nobody can tell it's him, and even Darwin can tell as he sees that Gumball dropped the button on his dress, and runs off smiling, wanting to give it back. And we then see Darwin drawing him in class, and then when Gumball asks if he can borrow his homework, he starts having love eyes. And then after class, Darwin says that he's in love, and then creepily says that she will be mine, before licking a picture he took of him, and then collecting his burp in a bag, and then taking the sweat from his towel after gym class and putting it inside of a heart locket. And he then asks Gumball to come to the amusement park with him, and starts freaking out saying she came and how she knows his name. It's just really weird. And on top of that, Darwin then says that he loves him and tries to kiss him. Gumball then contemplates that Anais telling him, as he doesn't want to break his heart, and says that one day he'll probably find another girl. But Anais brings up the question, what if he doesn't? As we see Gumball surrounded by kids that look like him and Darwin, as Darwin comes in and says that he wants more kids, which was just really dark. But Gumball then goes to tell everyone that he's leaving as a ploy to get out of this. But as Darwin sees this, he's of course heartbroken. So Gumball puts the dress on a balloon and explains to him why he has to leave. But then the balloon flies up into the sun and explodes. And Gumball then tries to comfort Darwin and gets him to move on from it. But then the dress lands on a fire hydrant and Darwin instantly falls in love. And then on top of that, everyone sees Gumball naked. And the episode ends with Darwin just continuing to caress the fire hydrant. This episode is obviously hated for the whole Gumball and Darwin ship thing, with Darwin seeming like he's in love with Gumball. But of course the reality was that he was actually just in love with the dress. It's still a very weird episode nonetheless. The robot. During recess, the other kids ask Bobber to kick their ball and he ends up kicking it into the sun, and then they all bully him for being a robot. But despite this, Bobber is still hurt and walks away before Gumball and Darwin notice and ask him what's wrong. Bobber then tells them that he wishes that he was a real boy. So Gumball and Darwin try to teach him what emotions are and how to be cool. But the next day, Gumball goes to school and sees that his stuff is gone from his locker and that he has already had lunch apparently. And then we see Penny talking to none other than Bobber, pretending to be Gumball, before we see her kiss him. So Gumball of course confronts him, but Bobber tells them that he's him, but just better. So Gumball says that he'll see how long he can keep convincing people, but then he goes home to his doors locked and then sees his family eating dinner with fucking Bobber. And then they all say that he's like Gumball, but just better, before hugging him. And Gumball then begins to cry as he has to sleep outside on the ground, knowing that he's been replaced and now has even lost his family. This was actually really sad. The next day, Gumball attacks Bobber, but he turns on his self-defense mode and attacks back. But Gumball tells him to fight like a man. When he tries to hit him, it obviously hurts, as he's a robot, but then he sends Gumball flying, and Darwin tries to help him, but he punches him instantly, which was funny. Thankfully, the water sprinklers turn on and stop Bobber, and give them a chance to reboot him, ending the episode with Bobber back to his normal self. This episode is mostly hated for people not being able to recognize that Bobber is Gumball, despite it being literally obvious, just as they did in The Dress. Another one of the supposed worst episodes of Gumball is The Slap. The Slap follows Gumball and Darwin trying to come up with a new way to greet people, before Darwin says that Tobias' way of greeting people is by giving them a high five and then slapping their butts, just before we see Tobias come over doing this to literally everyone, even Darwin. But when he gives Gumball a high five, he doesn't slap his butt, and Gumball at first is like, oh, he just knows I wouldn't take that, but then of course gets really sad as he's literally the only person he didn't do this to. So then after their gym class, as Tobias tells everyone good game and slaps their butts, Gumball creepily smiles at him and then makes himself taller to try to get him to do it to him as well. And then later on they meet again, and Tobias clearly starts to feel awkward as hell around him, but despite this, Gumball just arches his ass out, basically asking him to slap it, even raising his eyebrows up and down at him. So of course Tobias just gets up out of there. But because of this, he of course pledges that he's gonna make him slap his butt no matter what. But we then get a montage of Gumball just shoving his ass into Tobias' face and failing to get him to slap it over and over, until he goes home and just starts to sing like he's in a fucking fucking Disney movie.
Reason for Tobias's lighting. I only want a pet, just a tiny bump. A casual little hey there for my lonely romp.
This is such a good song, but actually the weirdest one in the entire show. But anyways, Tobias then goes to slap Darwin's butt again, but Gumball jumps in the way to take the slap, but Tobias chooses to slap himself instead, which knocks him out, and Gumball then says, once again, just an actually insane line.
Oh wait, it still counts if he's unconscious, right?
At least he realizes what he was doing was wrong, but actually he doesn't really, as he then takes it even farther, luring Tobias onto the roof so the two could share a deep experience trapped together and become so close to the point where, in Gumball's words, may I add, won't only slap his butt, but will kiss it. But Tobias, being upset at Gumball for tricking him here, instantly tries to eat him, and the two just start to eat each other, which was really gross. But as that wasn't working, they realize they have to work together, they want to make it out of this, so the two then sing once again a Disney movie ass song together. But as nothing they do works and they start to believe they're gonna die here, Tobias asks him why he did this, and Gumball says that he just wanted to slap like everyone else, and he says that he thought he would have hated that, and Gumball says he just wanted to be included. But then the two just start to straight up hallucinate, which was pretty cool. But then they pass out and wake up to Rocky and Darwin saying that they were looking for them for days. And Darwin tells Gumball that he hopes that he learned his lesson and that you can't force someone to be your friend or slap your butt. But then Gumball is like, oh wait, yeah, that was the point of this. I gotta get him to slap my butt, forgetting everything he just went through, which was pretty funny. But then as Tobias walks through the hall, he says what's up to Gumball and gives him a high five and then actually slaps his butt. And Gumball is just fucking shocked by it. But then of course slaps him and is like, why would you do that? You can't just go around slapping people's butts. Gumball gotta be bipolar or something, bro. Yeah, this episode is just weird. And this episode is actually banned in Poland for being too homosexual. Season 4, episode 22, The Hero, which begins with some of Gumball and Darwin's classmates flexing their dads, saying all the stuff that they're good at, but then when asked what their dad's good at, they quickly realize that Richard is only good at being embarrassing, before recalling a bunch of memories where he embarrassed them, before just straight up making fun of him. And then we see that Richard was actually here the whole time and heard all of this, which was really sad. They then come home to Nicole and Anais extremely mad at them, before revealing that Richard is in the shed crying, and Gumball says that he would apologize only if what he said wasn't true. So Nicole says that since they don't appreciate their parents, and until they apologize to their father, they won't be doing anything else for them. And so they weren't allowed to shower, and all the food that they got for really cheap was all expired. And since now they smelled really bad, while they're going to school, Rocky kicks them off the bus. And so Gumball and Darwin go to apologize to Richard, but when Gumball sees him, he quickly changes his mind. But we then see Richard sing a song about how once upon a time when Gumball was just little, he was his hero, realizing that now he isn't as they're all grown up, but still saying that being their father is good enough for him. Darwin then creates a scenario where his and Gumball's lives are in danger, so their father can save them and once again be a hero. But as he tries to save them and fails, Gumball just acts really insensitive, acting as if there was no way he could save him. But then as Gumball is about to die, Richard tells Gumball to come to him, as we see flashbacks of him going to him when he was a little kid, and he yells to his father asking to not let him down, and then he jumps inside of his arms and they both begin to cry, as Gumball says that he'll always be his hero. Nicole then tells Richard that she's glad that they made up, but then Richard gets his hand stuck, showing that despite everything, he's still a bit of a screw up, or just can do embarrassing things sometimes. This episode is mostly hated for enabling Richard to be the lazy self that he is, or just proving how he continues to let down the family to be the one who is holding them back, which I think is a really stupid argument. As we see in this episode, he clearly tries to prove that point otherwise. Another reason the episode is hated is just how Nicole treated Gumball and Darwin after what they said, just forcing them to starve and not letting them shower, just also kind of bad parenting. But moving on to the next episode, season 6, episode 43, The BFFs, which begins with this creepy little Furby guy coming to the house asking for Gumball, before Gumball introduces him as his BFF. And hearing this, Darwin gets really upset. He asks Gumball when they became friends, and he says a few years before he came. But then after Gumball responds, Darwin says he doesn't give a damn, and then continues to ask him questions before saying the same thing. And since he was being really salty, Gumball went with Fuzzy elsewhere, where he then asks him about his life, telling him about Minnesota and how it's nice there but would have been better if Gumball was there, but that now he's back. But when Gumball goes back home, we see that Darwin is still trying to think of a comeback, but Gumball then says that just because Fuzzy is back in his life doesn't mean that he loves Darwin any less. But then as the three are playing video games, Gumball goes to get a drink and Darwin instantly switches up, asking Fuzzy what he's up to, thinking that he's here to steal Gumball, which then causes Fuzzy to leave, calling Darwin crazy. Gumball then calls Darwin jealous, and Darwin once again says that he doesn't give a damn. So Gumball says that he's going to Fuzzy's house, and tries to put it all aside, saying he can still come, but Darwin once again says he doesn't give a damn. Gumball then begins the treacherous journey to Fuzzy's house, thinking that it was in Elmore, but quickly realizing that they were going all the way to Minnesota. And then when they finally get to Fuzzy's house, Fuzzy switches up and says that Gumball abandoned him and replaced him with a new BFF, and saying that from now on life's gonna be one big sleepover. But Darwin then shows up and knocks him out. Darwin then admits to being jealous, and the two make up, but then they have to run from Fuzzy, who tries to kill them. But Fuzzy's BFF Hank then shows up and takes him, ending the episode as the two now had to walk all the way back to Elmore. I hated Darwin for most of this episode, but at least he did admit to being jealous by the end of it, and was kinda right all along, as Fuzzy was evil and was trying to take Gumball for himself. Next, we have probably the most hated episode in all of Gumball. Season 4, episode 22, The Girlfriend, which follows Jamie bullying everyone in school, before Alan tells her that maybe she'd feel better if she had a boyfriend. And then on the bus ride home, Jamie says she needs a sweetheart and blows up the bus, before staring creepily at Darwin. And we then cut to Gumball asking Darwin why he didn't say no when she asked him out, and Darwin just says that it's fine and that he'll ride out the storm and say nothing. But then the very next day at school, Jamie threatens to kill Darwin if he breaks up with her, and Darwin gives her perfume as a gift, and she takes that as he's saying that she smells bad and just starts beating the shit out of the lockers. Jamie then threatens to kill Gumball, and then during recess, Jamie just stares at Darwin creepily. Sarah then says hello to them, and Jamie just starts freaking out, asking how long this has been going on, instantly assuming that Darwin is cheating on her. And then we see that Jamie fucking killed Sarah. Richard then introduces himself to her, but then she just tells him to listen to her, sending him home scared as hell. Gumball then begs Darwin to break up with her for everyone's safety, but Darwin continues to just say no. And then Jamie makes Gumball her boyfriend too. Gumball then tries to run away, which drives Jamie insane. And then just as Jamie is about to seemingly kill Gumball, he asks her what she wants from him, which makes her actually stop and think and realize that this is wrong. And then starts saying that love isn't something you take and is something you earn. And Darwin then comes in and says the exact same thing. And Jamie just starts saying, "You think I don't know what love is?" and punches Darwin, ending the episode with Gumball telling Darwin that he should have just continued to say nothing, which is such a horrible message, especially in regard to the plot of this episode literally being about being trapped inside of a toxic relationship with a girl who is clearly crazy and has anger issues and threatens to kill you if you leave. Yeah, like I said, just a horrible message. Definitely one of the worst episodes of the entire series. With that said, that's gonna be the end of the video. If you enjoyed it, be sure to drop a like and subscribe to the channel, and I'll see y'all in the next one, whenever that is.